Getting to all in, realizing the full potential of the cloud. That's what I'm here to talk about today. My name's Tom Adams, and I'm the Director of Business Consulting and Advisory Partners. We're just at the beginning of cloud adoption. Certainly there's been fast growth over time, and we've seen that, and that's been fantastic. But really, if you look at it and the research around it, we're only 4% of the companies are all cloud, according to IDG. And over the next 5 years, we're going to double in size of impact. And by 2028, the cloud will account for more than 80% of IT spend. That's incredible. We're just at the tip of the iceberg. But why are some companies more successful at moving to the cloud? We, as partners, need to understand that and help our customers. Let's look at the factors that drive success. Andy Jassy, in 2019 reInvent, talked about 4 different factors that drive success. I'm going to focus on the first 2. The first one is around senior leadership team conviction and alignment. There's always inertia when you move forward and try to do a business transformation. And so to get over those big rocks and the pushback, that's just quite normal. You need to get that senior leadership conviction. And you need to think about them and say, how do I help them understand where this value is coming from so that they can then help drive that transformation? The second one is top-down aggressive goals. Again, with that inertia that's out there, how can you help them put together some real metrics that are measurable that will help drive them faster than would be normal? Because again, that inertia is going to be pushing against you. And by getting that top-down goals, everyone can see that North Star and continue to focus on it. And that's going to help really drive that success. But those sound great, but how can we help our customers achieve these? It's not easy. We need to communicate the business benefits of cloud. We typically look at, and people think about the cloud, they think about IT infrastructure cost savings. And those are certainly there. It is much more effective and efficient around cloud, but that's just 8% of the benefits. People think about the resiliency that cloud provides, which is also phenomenal, but again, that's only 13% of the value. IT productivity using DevOps and how you can actually move forward on that, again, great, but only 32% of it. Almost 50% of the benefits come from business productivity. And we need to have discussions that help the business understand what really drives that value so they can, again, get that senior level conviction and they can get those top-down goals. And that's how we're going to help our customers drive that all in, that capturing that full potential of the cloud. We need to focus on the impact to margin and revenue. If we focus on IT, which is usually 3 to maybe 6% of the real cost of revenue, if we look at that and look at the savings, that's not senior level conviction. If you want the CEO to buy in, you need to look at what the big rocks are. And those are around operating cost and revenue. And according to McKinsey, companies that reap value focus investments on business domains where cloud can enable increased revenue and improve margins. Let me tell you a little story of a time. I was working with a pharmaceutical company. And the IT team came and said, hey, we want to replace our contact center. We want to move it out. It's expensive, it's clumsy. We want to move that forward. But we're just not getting traction. And they asked me to help. And I took a step back and said, let's go talk to operations and let's go talk to sales. So I went and spoke to operations and said, what is this going to do for you? How is this going to help you run the call center more efficiently? And they spoke about how this would help their agents be much more effective, therefore driving productivity, and also self-service and what the capabilities were for that. Again, really driving that operational cost and improving margins. Then I talked to the sales team, and the sales team had for a very long time wanted to improve their revenues through cross-selling, through the contact center and the agents. But they needed to have better tools to do that. And this solution would enable them to really encapsulate that. By working with them, I helped them set very, very conservative targets, but these targets dwarf the cost of IT. So we got into a meeting with the CEO, and the CEO stood back and said, I'm in trouble. He said, business is around the table. And the reason we brought the business is because this is a business discussion. So we had an hour and a half meeting, and we spoke about the benefits and what was going to happen. And towards the end of the meeting, the CEO looked at the VP of sales and said, so you're telling me I can increase your target next year by 5% if we implement this? And the VP said, yes. CEO said, I'm done. We only spent 5 minutes of that meeting talking about the technology because the senior level people understood we knew the technology. He wanted to make sure this was truly, driving business impact. Let me give you a couple more examples of what we've done at AWS with driving a business impact around adoption. Let me start with the Volkswagen Group. The Volkswagen Group wanted to drive productivity improvements and try to understand how they can do that and how they can leverage the cloud to do that. By looking and digitizing production and logistics across 120 different plants, leveraging AWS IoT, machine learning, analytics, they were able to really go in there and figure out how they could find those value pools and drive that forward. Through this, as part of this overall effort, they were able to drive 30% productivity over time, and they're still on that journey, but very, very impactful for them. And that business outcome was able to drive the adoption. With United Airlines, they wanted to focus on how they could increase revenue, reduce execution time for the offers, and of course, reduce flight delays. I know we're not taking a lot of flights now, but in the days we were flying, flight delays were very, very important to all of us, and we'd like to reduce them as much as possible. Well, they worked with a partner, BCG Formation, and launched Miles Play Experience. And that really, again, leveraged AI to deliver personalized multi-step offers. And those offers worked with the customer to help them move forward, sort of gamify the process. And through that, they were able to have a business impact, a 4 times increase in net incremental revenue, 7 times decrease in the offer execution, and reduced flight delays. Again, that business impact driving the adoption. And let me move to Georgia Pacific. Again, they wanted to say, how can we leverage the cloud to really help us drive profitability and really through some of the reduction of the outages. And again, they operate 200 facilities, and they said, how can we put in thousands of endpoints that are there and manage them with smart sensors and leveraging AI and ML to find out when they needed to move things forward, when they could predict things that would happen and drive that forward. And through this, they were able to increase profits by millions of dollars from just one production line by analyzing the technology to avoid tearing. Again, looking through all of these, the story is, if we can understand the business impact, and it will drive the adoption through the business and drive that business impact that, again, focuses on the high level senior engagement and drive those metrics that we want to be able to track. Let's look through, review one of the quotes from Oliver Bloom, the CEO of Porsche, part of Volkswagen. We will continue to strengthen production as a key competitive factor for the Volkswagen Group. Our strategic collaboration with Amazon Web Services will lay the foundation. Again, if we want to have senior level conviction, we need to talk about things that matter to the senior level, which is around strengthening production as a key competitive factor. That's critical. And how the cloud enables that and lays the foundation, that's our focus. In my 25 years in technology, I've learned a lot about having had these business-led approaches. And I'd like to talk about some of the pitfalls and the best practices. Again, I'm a technologist. I really enjoy it. And so it's natural. We want to lead with technology. We know it very well. We're extremely comfortable with it. And we want to take our time and talk about that. But that's really a pitfall. It categorizes us in the technology space, which is great, but it doesn't come from the customer point of view, which is the business. And we need to take that lens and not the technology lens. We have to be very sharp on technology. We have to understand how it's doing the impact, but leading with it, it's a pitfall. Focusing on migration for migration's sake typically don't work. It's great, it's part of it, but why are we migrating? It's a means to the end. We have to understand why we're migrating and what this is going to drive for the customer. Understanding that is how we get that senior level conviction. Acting transactional. If we are just doing pieces and parts, it's hard to see how that is going to drive a senior level engagement. Certainly, as we get a program and a programmatic approach, we can then do the transactions within that, but it always goes to that North Star of what we're trying to achieve and how we're driving that business impact. The last one is, in the pitfalls, is avoiding business challenges. In my experience, technology is maybe 30% of a business transformation. The rest of it is really around operational and people. How do we really leverage that to drive it forward? If we avoid those conversations and the rocks that are going to happen and what's going to force this to have the inertia, then we're ignoring some of the challenges that the business really faces. If we can address those, and again, with that senior level conviction, to talk about how we're going to get over those or how we're going to work together to do those, that's what really makes it successful. So some of the best practices: knowing your customer's business. How do they make money? What drives revenue? What are the big operating costs? And how can cloud help reduce those? We got to dive in and understand the business and what is on the CEO's top 3 agenda. Also acting holistically. Like I said, putting the program together, being holistic around what it's going to take from technology, what it's going to take operationally, what it's going to take on the people side. Having that view really allows you to have a business-led discussion. And then it's about demonstrating ROI. It's not about just delivering, but it's showing that ROI, and not at the end of the project, but throughout the program. And the idea here is that you need to understand what those metrics are, demonstrate it, and by demonstrating it, you keep that senior level engagement because they see the results. In fact, it may accelerate the adoption because when that happens and that you've proven it, they want to put more effort behind it because it's delivering the results they expected. And the last thing is moving fast. There are so many things on the agenda for our senior leadership across any of our customers. And if we're not able to move fast and capitalize and drive that, it gets lost. So moving quickly to be able to drive that forward is critical and demonstrating that as we go along. The good news is AWS can help you drive business engagement. We have thought about it broadly and have put together, and I'm going to talk about 3 things, but really put together lots of different areas that we can help you have that and elevate that conversation to the business. We have industry resources, experts, use cases, solutions. This is really, the idea is to take these industry resources and help you really understand that customer. Like I said, what is the customer? What's important to the customer? What's the driving force? And what are those use cases we've had that can truly drive value for them? There's the cloud adoption framework. We've taken the time and effort to think about how we can help clients go from their ideas to really realization. We have methodology, tools, and training, and I'll talk a little more about that. And then our cloud economics team. We've done a lot and built out the cloud economics team, frameworks, benchmarks, and coaching to really talk about understanding what that is and build those business cases to demonstrate, as we talked about, demonstrating the ROI and tracking that as we go forward. So I'm going to dive into each of these in a little more detail, and I'll have some resources at the end of the presentations that you can look at, and they're available to you. So industry resources. It's really understanding and communicating the potential of the cloud. Like we talked about, it's really helping them understand that's truly critical. We cover a lot of industries, and AWS has been investing very much in driving that and getting more and more details around it. We have a lot of resources, experts that are there and building out the teams around that, use cases and case studies. And I'll tell you a quick story about some of the experts. I've been working with a pharmaceutical company on a therapeutic drug for a disease, and I'm not an expert in life sciences, and I called our team and said, how can we help our client and make sure that we're really bringing the best to bear for them so they're prepared? And our team not only did they know a great deal about life sciences, they also knew about the disease and the challenges of that, but also about the therapeutic approach. They knew about the different customers and how to approach them. That kind of insight that we can bring to the table together is critical to helping our customers take advantage of the cloud, and it's also helping them in that business transformation. Like I said, we have solutions and testimonials. I think the other one is there's a lot of partners, right? Not only partners in the ISV space who are experts in this, other SIs, and of course the team I work with around the business consultants that really understand the industry in detail and the challenges that they've been facing and how they can move forward. And of course, our sales teams are incredible. They've been diving in and understand the customer and the challenges around it as well. And I would encourage engaging with them as well to help with these industry resources. And then I'd like to talk about the cloud adoption framework. We spent years understanding the client and put together some real thinking around how we can define and deliver that business value. And there's 4 different areas that we have around envisioning, which is really connecting the business, as we've talked about, the business goals to the enabling technology. Fundamentally, there's a lot of tools and actually workshops that we have that will help you take that step back and understand what is it the business wants to do, and getting down and diving into that, right? And understanding what is it they want to do and how we as AWS and the partners can help them achieve that. There's about aligning. Again, we talked about it. It's not about IT, it's about everyone, right? It's about the entire business. We want to make sure we bring in operations, line of business, and bringing those stakeholders together and getting their concerns. We talk about those rocks. What are those challenges? Understanding them up front will allow us to make sure we're aligned and focused on addressing those throughout the program. And we have, again, some tools and workshops that we can work with our customers and with you, our partners, to really deliver that to our customers. And that's a critical part to being successful. Next is about launching. And the cloud adoption framework is about deploying and developing and deploying the work streams. We have a lot of tools around that, understanding their migration readiness assessments and understanding, are they ready for this, for the adoption? What are the challenges they have? How can we make sure that we're addressing them all? What's both short-term and long-term? Building out that long-term plan for delivering that value. It's critical to take that time to put that plan together and get, again, that senior leadership buy-in and showing how the plan that's going to be launched will deliver that vision that we had up front. And then lastly, realizing the value. It's critical to take that time to recognize and measure that incremental business value. So like we talked about, putting those metrics in place are critical, but then you have to take time to drive that forward. If we don't have an ongoing process that will demonstrate that value, we will lose the conviction of the senior leadership. So it's critical to do that, again, not just at the end of the project, but throughout the project. Take that time to recognize it and drive that value. I can't stress it enough to be able to tell you that part, if you don't get that right, it really does throw everything off. By taking that time to recognize that value will continue to build the momentum. And that's what I think is really critical if we want to have a long-term business transformation. And let me talk, the last one I want to cover is around cloud economics. And that's really measuring and realizing the impact, which we talked about just a minute ago. And we have, again, a lot of tools around that. And the total cost of ownership and the cost savings. Again, this is what we talked about originally around infrastructure cost savings. I said it was only 8%, which is a small, but it's not something we wouldn't want to capture. We want to take the time of understanding that. What are the cost savings with moving to the cloud? We need to make sure that's there. And we have great examples and a lot of great examples and tools to help with that. And again, a team that can help you. But sometimes it's there's examples around 50% reduction that a TCO for General Electric. There's great examples out there that we want to make sure that we're highlighting and demonstrating. There's also staff productivity. We talked about that, but the efficiency and improvement from that. How do we make sure we're showing that through DevOps and the efforts around that we can demonstrate the staff productivity? It's not enough just to say it. We've got to put the metrics and the mechanisms in place to be able to track that on an ongoing basis. Operational resilience is a third one. What's the benefit of improving the SLAs and the reduction in unplanned outage? Again, it's pretty significant around that. We have incredible capabilities of AWS, and as they move to the cloud, they want to recognize that. And again, these outages can have significant impact to the business. Again, if you think about how much is being transacted over time, this will be a significant portion of it. You think about what's coming up. We have Black Friday and the holidays, the amount of shopping. What would 1 minute or 1 hour of outage impact a business? So you want to make sure that's quantified and bought into by the business. And that, again, goes to that alignment so that they understand it, and then you can track it and show that benefit. And lastly, the business agility. This is deploying the new features and applications faster and reducing the errors around that. That's everything we talked about. I've been talking some of the examples around pharma. If you can bring, and again, some examples around it, bringing things to market much faster. There's an example with Unilever, improving the time by 75% of bringing products to market. That kind of thing really drives business value, and again, gets that senior leadership alignment. And with these metrics that are associated with this, it really makes sure people are tracking it and demonstrating it. So together, we can get the customers to all in. And again, that all in is taking full advantage of the cloud. With AWS and the three things I talked about, again, there's a lot more, but our industry resources, what we can bring to bear on understanding holistically understanding the companies and what's driving their revenue and their operating cost, to the use cases that demonstrate that it's been done before and how they can really leverage cloud to drive that, to the experts and bringing them in to have those conversations. The cloud adoption framework, from envisioning alignment to really tracking that value, and certainly cloud economics and the details around that, so that we can not just demonstrate it at the end of the presentation, or at the project, but truly capturing that value and driving it forward and having the metrics around it. But again, the customer's at the center. We're all customer obsessed, and it's making sure we're demonstrating that business impact. And again, it's through the partners, the system integrators, who can drive that and understand the business side of it. ISVs have built incredible solutions that will accelerate the value that the customers can recognize. So understand what is out there from the ISVs and how that can be integrated, again, to drive that business impact. Understand that there's a lot of great tools that are out there to understand the ISVs and engage them early, because they're critical. And of course, the business consultants, which I work with, they understand these companies and these industries incredibly well. They understand what's top of mind for the C-suite, and they understand how they can actually drive that forward and demonstrate that value. And again, understand how to do the critical element of operating model changes and business changes that are going to be required to take advantage of the cloud and drive that forward. So to summarize, really realizing that full potential of the cloud, that's what I want to talk about, and I hope you got some ideas of how to drive that forward. Again, we're in early days to cloud adoption. only 4% are all in. And by 2028, over 80% of IT spend will be associated with the cloud. That's incredible. And we got to be able to have the conversations to help our customers take advantage of that. And to gain senior leadership alignment and conviction, we need to focus beyond IT and on growing revenue and improving margin. That's taking that step back and having that conversation to understand that business holistically, remembering the pitfalls, but also those best practices that we can engage to drive those conversations forward. And again, AWS, we're here to support you and our customers to become all in by realizing that full potential in the cloud. Take that step back, understand it, work with the industry experts we have, our cloud adoption framework and cloud economics. Bring them in. Talk to your sales team, talk to your partner team, and also talk to the other partners, the ISVs. Bring it together. Let's keep that customer obsession in focus to really drive that and have that impact. At the bottom of the page, I have some resources that you can refer to, and of course, reach out and work with the team at AWS and again, your partners to drive that forward. I just want to thank you for your time. Very excited to have this, and again, reach out to me with any questions, and I look forward to that. And of course, don't forget, please fill out the session survey. Thank you very much.